And we are live, guys. Welcome to another live stream from the Three Girls in Love channel. My name is Joseph Darling. The question today is, as a woman, should you get married? Because that's a very, very important question to ask yourself. Because from my channel, it's a bit different. We're politically incorrect and we speak about marriage and relationships the way it is and the way it happens in monogamy. And it's not really that pretty what happens in monogamy. And we don't really get told about that before we get married. And we're kind of like, once you do get married, you're basically in it. And now you can't really go out of it. And if you do go out of it, then you end up being divorced. And no one wants to be divorced and have that past with them, etc., etc. So I'm going to try and keep it as simple as possible. It's going to be impossible. But I want you guys to understand a bit more about this subject than you do today. And to be honest with you, you're probably not going to listen to my advice anyway because you're emotional. And that's okay. And you're going to basically follow your emotions to the nth degree and do whatever you want anyway. But just keeping it simple for those of you who are unburdened and who want to weigh up your options, you might be able to get a lot of benefit from this video. First of all, we got to understand what channel this is. This is not a monogamous channel. This is not a one-man, one-woman channel. This channel is for those that are interested in three girls in love. What is three girls in love? One man, three women. But this man is a man of high value. He is a trustworthy man, he has integrity, and he has lifelong commitment, and he is passionate about his role as a provider and a protector for your emotional fulfillment. Okay, we gotta understand that. And he's rich. That's what we're preparing for women. And my goal, one day, our goal as a Men of High Value community is to make sure that 100%, if possible, of women and children will be luxuriously provided for and protected in the long run. That is completely impossible in the world that we're living in today with monogamy. In Three Girls in Love, that's possible. Because then you simply have to prepare 20% to 30% of the male population. We can't fix 100% of the male population. Okay, so in this current circumstance, so women and children are going to suffer being linked to guys who suck. It's much more easier to provide for and to protect women together with the man of high value if we only have to train and prepare a few of them, 20 to 30% of them instead. Does that make sense? So our goal is for Three Girls in Love to become mainstream in the long term because, in my opinion, it's the only thing that properly works in terms of women's emotional fulfillment. Not because the man is amazing, not because he's rich, but because women need other women. Because women need other women in the home, but also children need more than one mother. It's just the way it is. If you've been in a marriage, if you've been in a family situation, you know how hard it is as one woman to do everything. To be a superwoman. It sucks. But if you're three women, man, everything becomes more amazing. With that in mind, let's start the video. Should you get married? Right now, you're probably single. You're watching this video. You've had some failed relationships in the past, maybe. And you're asking, should I get married when I find the right guy? What's the right thing to do here if I want to be part of the Three Girls in Love movement? First of all, what do I tell the guys? I tell them, no, do not get married. That's good to know. From a female perspective, if I'm telling you, should you get married? It's good to know what I tell the guys. And I tell the guys, don't get married. I actually made a video called 100 Reasons Not to Get Married. Okay? And then I said, fine, 23 to keep it short. So understand from the man's perspective, it's a very, very, very bad idea to get married. Very bad idea. It's a good idea to prepare massively for a man to prepare for a lifelong commitment for 3 women. Okay, for 3 girls in love. That is what he prepares himself for. That's why he lives voluntary celibacy. That's why he practices semen retention, avoids porn, avoids any form of sexual stimuli in order for him to build up his financial foundation. Once he's built that up, he's beginning to get the trust and the integrity, and he gets the stamp of approval eventually of the rest of the men of high value community that he is ready to take on 3 girls in love. Once he is that, then he can commit to the women that he desires for the long term. And then he will stick to those women no matter what. And we teach them how to keep women happy for their entire lives. That's what we teach, and we know how to here. So, what do we teach women, however? Should you get married? The short answer is no. If I tell the men no, then obviously I would tell you guys no as well, if we're going to keep this in the same movement. However, it is the long answer. It's a little bit more complicated than that, and that's what I'm explaining in this video. First of all, why do we get married? Let's look at it objectively. Why do we get married? From the man's perspective, he wants a family, he wants kids, and he wants to have sexual access. An easy sexual access that's consistent so that he can be consistent with what he's trying to accomplish in the world and solving problems for millions of people. That's why men desire it. And at the same time, of course, it's love. We want love, but we want sex with those that we love. Okay? Does that make sense? Men want depth just as much as women do. Okay? And if we know that's how men function. That's why they want a family. They want happiness. And they know they can't be emotionally fulfilled, them, without the women in their lives and without kids. And they want to have a purpose. And it's a bigger drive for them to actually accomplish their purposes. Because if there's no family, as a single guy, like, life sucks in many aspects. You get to a certain amount of happiness, even if you're living voluntary celibacy and practicing retention and all that stuff. For a man, like, you get to a consistent amount of happiness. Like, you get to a 6 or 7, 8, and you stay there all of the time if you're disciplined and you accomplish amazing things. But we want women in our lives, right? There's a slogan that says, you can't live with them, but you can't live without them. Well, in 3 girls in love, you actually can live with them, but you can't live without them. Okay? So, it's actually interesting how that one... Okay, anyway, what about the women? Why do you get married? Well, it really stems from the same aspect of inherently you also desire a family. You also desire love. And you want depth in that love. And you want to have the in-love emotion forever, hopefully. Marriage is not going to give that to you in monogamy. Because you're going to be in love with the person when you get married, and then it's going to go downhill from there in terms of attraction and in terms of desire towards your partner. That's really what in love means, okay? If you want to be close to them all of the time, and you want to smell them, and you want to touch and feel them, blah, blah, blah. That's being in love. But once you get married, it disappears. It goes away for the rest of your life. Unless you begin to do things outside of that marriage, or you break up with that divorce, and you get a divorce, and then you move on to the next guy, and you have serial monogamy, and then you in love again, and then it goes downhill from there again once you get his commitment. That's how it works every single time. So you've got that aspect. I was saying, but you still want a family. You still want love. You still want kids, and you want that depth in terms of having also friends. You want a lifelong friend next by your side, so that you can enjoy life together. Right? That's one of the biggest reasons for marriage. The other aspect is that you want security from loneliness. Right? You'll have someone by your side to tackle problems, to handle the financial burden, to handle life, basically. And also, you just don't want to be alone. Women are social creatures, and they know this inherently, so they want someone by their side. And they know also that women very often are fickle, and other women get married. Right? And so what's going to happen? Oh, I'm going to be left behind. And one of the worst things that women experience is inequality. They don't want everyone else to get married and then for them to be left behind and I'm the one who's single and they feel pity for me. Right? You don't want that. And that's why you want to get married eventually. At one point, I want to get married. Maybe not right now, but at one point, I want to get married. Because I know that I'm going to be left behind. Because everyone else probably are going to get married because that's what happens in mainstream. You understand what I mean? And then there's feminists that are basically saying, don't get married, and we need more people that don't get married so people don't feel left behind, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you want that as well. You want security in terms of provision. I mean, you want someone to help you out with the financial burden, preferably if he could handle all of the financial burden, that would be awesome, right? And then you want security from a stability and consistency standpoint as well. You want stability because that's going to help you to feel secure that if anything was to happen, you have someone there with you. And you also want to have continual sexual access. You want to know that you have someone whenever you need it, which is at least once a week, really, when you think about it. If you're actually in that, I mean, if you're married, then that's usually the amount of sex that women need in order for them to function optimally. Unless they use stimulants. Very often they use stimulants, and then they have no desire anyway. But you don't want any sexual ups and downs from not having sexual access, so then it's really nice to have a family and a marriage. Okay, so if we know this, that's really why you want to get married. And you got the religious standpoint, but we're going to exclude that one from now. How about, okay, so you will not complete, this is one thing I mentioned in the Will and Jada video a couple of weeks ago, or a month ago now almost, where you will not have optimal amounts of happiness without others, okay? Like, that's 100% sure. You cannot be happy and complete by yourself. So that's one aspect to marriage that is crucial to understand. The other aspect is, we also know that your beauty declines. People say that, one crucial aspect, if you only remember this from this video, this is the most important thing I want you to learn, is that you are wealthy and rich when you're young. Between 18 and 22 is the time when you are the richest in terms of what you have to offer in a relationship. Because you've got beauty, you've got femininity, you've got unburdenedness, you don't have a past, you don't have emotional baggage very often. People are beginning to struggle these days, even at 18 years old, to not have emotional baggage, but hopefully you don't have emotional baggage, and then you come there, and that's the time when you're the best, and the most wealthiest, and you have the most to offer in a relationship. Those are the women that men desire the most, okay? And then over time, what happens? Well, you're going to get older, your fertility is going to decline, your beauty is going to decline, and probably your femininity will also decline if you stay single and if you remain in the same process that you're in. Because you're basically tackling now life's problems all on your own, and it's just so much more difficult to handle them all on their own compared to when you have someone else by your side. Which means that the older you get, the more burden you get. That's a fact of life. That's reality. It is built this way so that women in earlier times, and these days it's not really happening very much, but in earlier times, women would get married at an early age. That was a good thing. And they would get married very often to guys that were older than them, maybe 10 years older or 15 years older. Older than that, maybe that's too much. But 10 to 15 years older, that's in my opinion, recommended. Because boys your age are very immature. If you haven't noticed yet, okay? We raise women and we raise girls and boys very often in the same schools these days. And it's a very, very bad idea. The way that schools are operating right now, it's absolutely horrific. Because women and girls begin to look up to guys that are in their vicinity. They're environmental creatures. And if they didn't have boys that were their same age in their vicinity, then they would find guys that were a little bit older than them. 2 years old, 5 years old, 10 years older, that would be the thing that's normal for them. Because boys are immature, and they're way less mature than women are, and women grow up faster in many aspects, and you'll see that as well when you see puberty, like how women grow faster than men do. Like, it's so weird. Like, I remember that I was like the short kid in my class, and it was like most girls in my class were taller than I was. I was like, what happened in puberty? I was taller than all of you guys, and then you guys had a growth spurt, and then I came the growth spurt afterwards, and then passed all of them. Do you understand what I mean? So there's something to that nature of basically how women were designed to be with older men. And women also are simply attracted to older men because they're just more mature and they're more calm and they've got more experience and they basically are set in life and have a financial stability and foundation, etc., etc. Does that make sense? So, all right, let's see. The other aspect is okay, let's explain the thing about the femininity that I was explaining. Here, we've got femininity, and you have your greatest wealth when you're young, and then I'm telling you not to get married. That's a problem. Do you see the problem here? And that's why it's a bit more complicated than that in terms of me telling guys, don't get married. Okay? Because they need to set up their financial foundation first and become men. And that takes time. And it might take them 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years for some guys who suck. Right? Because we want to prepare them and make them as perfect as possible so that you can be massively attracted to them, so that the 3 girls in love are actually, it's doable, and they'll actually retain them because the 3 girls are massively in love with him because he is close to perfect. Do you understand what I mean? And he's got the cash, he's got the dough, he's got the confidence, etc., etc. So that's for men. So it takes time for us to build them up, and that's why it's preferable if the women are 5 to 10 years younger, because the men have the option to choose those girls. Okay, as long as they're over 18, that's it. They have to be over 18. But for women, this is a bit different because you have your wealth at 18 and 22, right? And so am I supposed to wait for a man of high value to get ready? That's going to take a long time. And my beauty is declining and my femininity is declining and everything is declining in my life. I want to have my, the greatest time in your life where you are the most wealthy in terms of what you have to offer in a relationship. That's the time when you want to secure a man of high value, right? So, what do? Well, you don't get married, that's for one. But you connect yourself to this channel as much as possible. You watch everything and understand all the principles. In my opinion, you also watch the Men of High Value channel. But don't look at the comments because most of the guys there suck and are not part of the Men of High Value community. But they're still around, okay? But you listen to what I have to say because I have a few key people who actually are being coached by me and who pay me on a monthly basis. And those are the guys that I'm preparing over time to be ready for the 3 girls in love. And obviously, we won't be able to help everyone, right, in the beginning because we only have a few men of high value. So it's only the best women right now who can be helped in terms of immediate gratification, in terms of actually you getting the man of high value in 3 girls in love in the next 12 months to 2 years to 3 years. Okay, while you're preparing yourself, while you're unburdening yourself, while you're making yourself feminine and keeping your femininity, that's what we're building towards, right? But on a long-term basis, like the next 50 years, okay, and the next 100 years, you should be thinking about this movement in terms of preparing your daughters and sons to make this world a better place. This is a long-term thing. This is not just, ooh, I give you an immediate advice and that's going to be the best I can do. No, we're making heaven on earth, okay? And preparing the world to enter into a new era of happy relationships and amazing marriages and amazing relationships and where kids can grow up in harmony. That's what we're creating here. So if you don't have a chance to get it yourself within the next few years, you have the ability to prepare your kids and prepare your future family to get this. So that's what I mean when I say, well, it's a bit more complicated, because you might not be able to wait for a man of high value. So you'll get a man of the value that you get, which is great. He's going to be a man of high value for you, I'm sure. Okay, hopefully, if he receives a stamp of approval from someone, because that's crucial. You don't want your emotions to be the one that chooses. You don't want your emotions to choose a man for you for life. That's a horrific way of choosing who you're going to marry. You need other people to join you in that aspect of choosing a man of high value for you. But you also have the other aspect. A man of high value, let's say he does arrive at his stamp of approval time, and he's been coached over a long period of time, he's integral, he's trustworthy, he's got the financial foundation, etc. Let's say that you come along and you don't have the other two women with you, and you don't know how to find the other women because no one accepts your lifestyle and no one accepts your beliefs that this is a good way to go. Then you come into the movement, you come into get in contact with the movement, or get in contact with the one that you want, and you say basically, I believe in 3 girls in love. I love 3 girls in love. This is what I want, but I don't have the other women. Then you would come to him and say, I want you. Will you have me, right? And then he basically would make his decision, and if he does want you, then he would take you on, and you guys would be together finding the 2 other girls. Does that make sense? And you would stay away from getting pregnant, and you'd stay away from getting married, because you want things to be equal with the other 2. And the moment you get married, you create an immediate wedge between yourself and the 2 other women that are coming into your relationship in the future. If that's what you wanted. Once you get married, you kind of screwed up the whole game there in many ways. Okay? This is one of the reasons why me and my wife, like approximately 5 years ago or 4 years ago, we were just like trying to get a divorce in order for her to be equal with the 2 others in the future. Because we know that our love lasts forever, okay, and that we're going to stick together forever no matter what. Because I know how to retain her, and I know how to keep her happy in many aspects, and she loves me, and we always want to stick together as a family. And because we know all of these principles, like marriage certificates for us are useless. It doesn't make any difference for us. We're going to stick it out together no matter what. Okay? So because of that, we were just like, why don't we just get a divorce? And then the Norwegian government wouldn't allow us to get a divorce because we have to live separately for a full year with different addresses and a different blah, blah, blah. Like, what the heck? Okay, so we chose not to get a divorce. But we could have, and we can. But do you understand what I mean? That's what I'm saying, that in order for us to create equality, it's crucial that you don't get married. And then, but it's even worse if you've got kids with the guy. Because then it's like, oh, you're married, he's lifelong commitment to you, and you have kids. So basically, if something happens in the relationship, then the first one he boots out the door, guess who it's gonna be? It's gonna be the side chick. It's gonna be the girl that comes in to enter into the relationship, etc., etc. Right? Very bad idea. So that's what I'm saying. Like, don't get married. Don't involve the government. Don't, because you're making the whole process a lot more difficult. Okay, so what do you do if you find a guy and he's not part of the Men of High Value channel? He's not part of understanding all of these things, or you are already with the guy. Let's say you're already married and you want to get, 3 girls in love. You need to get that guy in the Men of High Value channel. And preferably to be coached by me, because then it goes faster. Okay? in order for him to understand female nature, which is the hardest and most difficult thing for him to understand, and then for him to be able to be ambitious and fired up about 3 Girls in Love and seeing the potential and believing that he has the power and the confidence in order for him to retain 3 women and not just one. Because very often guys who are married these days, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't take on 2 more women. Like, she's very difficult all on her own. Yeah, but she's difficult because she's alone. Okay, if she had 2 other women, she wouldn't be difficult. So I'm just explaining to you, like, if you do meet a guy, you send him immediately to the Men of High Value channel in order for him to learn what he needs to learn in order for you to be emotionally fulfilled for the rest of your life. Because the guys that don't understand these principles, they're going to struggle with you and they're going to blame you. And you don't want to be blamed. Right? The more you're blamed, the more miserable you're going to be throughout the rest of your life. Because then you have to take upon yourself responsibility that you don't want to have. And if you have to take upon yourself responsibility, what happens to your femininity? It disappears. And you end up basically becoming more and more masculine, more and more burdened, and then you are attracted to him less and less and less. And because of that, basically your life begins to suck. More and more. So as a woman, you want to make sure that you get a man of high value who understands 3 Girls in Love, who understands the principles that we teach, so that he can give you the lifestyle that you desire, that you deserve. Okay? Because all women deserve having an amazing lifestyle. All women. Unfortunately, rationally, we can't help everyone immediately. Because if we do, then we have to force people. And you can't force people and things work in the long run. You have to lead them voluntarily through education. And in terms of women, we can't even lead you through education because your emotions will overpower your rational remembrance. And that's okay. So instead, we have to lead you through attraction. Right? We have to create men of high value that are massively attractive in order for you to accept these principles. And then you'll eventually accept it because that's what you do as a woman. So, okay, so let's see. What else? Yeah. I just wanted to share this with you. Also, the aspect of men suck. They suck. And when you are basically in love with someone, let's say you're emotionally involved with someone, you'll find that, oh, he's so amazing. And you're having basically your eyes half shut of his problems. You're blind because that's what love is. Love is blind, if you haven't noticed. Every time you're in love, you don't see their shortcomings very much. And you manage to just brush it off. It's not going to be a problem. And then you actually do get married to that person very often. And then the problem that he had that you brushed off in the beginning becomes massively accentuated because he loses capacity and motivation because you've lost capacity and motivation. That's what happens in marriage. So, did I explain myself clearly in this video? It's kind of like an experiment for me to explain to you guys about marriage. Because in my opinion, stay away from it. You don't, like, women have this financial incentive very often to get married because if they get a divorce, they can take half his money, right? Well, that sucks for both parties. That you have a financial, emotional incentive to get a divorce. And it ruins families and it ruins you. There should be no financial incentive for you to oh, I can just pick up my bags and go. Now I understand if there's an emotional incentive that I found a better guy and this guy absolutely sucks and he has no intention of improving. Okay, there's more security over there. That's hypergamy. That's normal. That's good. You know, as long as you don't have kids with the guy. If you have kids with the guy, then it's a problem because you want the kids to actually feel that they're, you know, that they didn't get a divorce, etc., etc. So there was one more thing though I wanted to share with you guys. Please comment down below with your questions in order for you to get specifics. And your specific situation, DM me on Men of High Value. Oh, I'm supposed to get married to this guy, or I have my wedding tomorrow. What should I do? Don't do it. Get cold feet. Tell them about this channel because it's the best thing for you long term. Again, in my opinion. But it's not, there's no relationship advice here. This is for educational purposes only. Okay? But there was one more thing I remember. Okay. What about the financial collapse, Joseph? There's a financial collapse coming. My life hasn't been very difficult the past 10 to 15 years because the world has been living in debt. And because the world has been living in debt, there's so much money to go around that I'm not worrying about the future at all, because I'm a woman and I'm just a now creature, and I see that I just work and I get tons of money and everything's wonderful and great with my life. It's just my relationships that suck. Okay, understand that your financials are gonna suck soon too. If you don't understand gold, silver, and Bitcoin, and the dollar collapses and all the other fiat currencies collapse, what are you gonna do? What's gonna happen if 50% of all jobs overnight disappears? What are you gonna do, right? This is another aspect that I thought of, which is kind of like, for men, it's good for them to not have responsibility and for them not to have women to worry about during a financial crash. But for women, it's not so good. For women, they actually need the protection from a man who is strong, who is powerful, who is able to protect you, but not only you and your physical you, but also your emotional you, from being worried and fearful about the future because everything's collapsing financially in the entire world. Financial collapse is not that far away. Gold, silver, Bitcoin. That's kind of where it's at. Again, no financial advice. But for educational purposes, all fiat currencies are going to become worthless. Worthless. It's a piece of paper. Okay? You can't use it anymore. Okay? And they're going to basically wedge up the prices while your salaries are going to remain approximately the same, and you're going to become poorer and poorer and poorer. It's very wise to connect yourself to a man of high value during that time frame who has cash and who can provide for you and who can provide for 2 other women as well, for you to have bliss in your family relationships. So during a financial collapse, would it be better for a woman to find a man and hold on to him? Well, if he's a good guy, yes. If he gets a stamp of approval from all of your extended family that this is the one, like, oh my gosh, he's amazing, then yes, go ahead and try to educate him on 3 Girls in Love over time. And trust me, as a man, he's going to accept it. Because if he's amazing and he wants to provide and he's got a motivation to do so, he'll want 3 Girls in Love. Wonderful. That's a solution for you. But he might not understand this. But you should still grab hold of him now in order to prepare for the long term. If he receives a stamp of approval from everyone. If he doesn't, and it's just your emotions, then please allow your emotions to remember this. Do not commit to a guy who is not trustworthy, who is not integral, and who has not received a stamp of approval from everyone else that you know. Okay? Because he'll suck. Most guys do after marriage, because you can't control your emotions of not being attracted. And you can't control your emotions of not nagging. And if you do all of that, and the sexual aspect is kind of lackluster over time, and he blames you, there's going to create a lot of problems for you long term. It's going to be the beginning of all your problems, not the end of all your problems. But if the man is amazing, connect yourself to him, and then, yeah. And when it comes to the sexual involvement part, this is, again, one huge piece of advice that I want to share with you guys. Do not get sexually involved with anyone yet, right? Don't get sexually involved with anyone, because that's going to spur your emotions to not be able to think clearly about what's going on, especially if he's uncertain about things. The more uncertain he is about the relationship, the more you're going to be like, oh, I want you, I want you, I want you. And then the moment he's like, I want you, you're going to be like, oh, whatever. That's how women function. That's the female brain, and you can't do anything about it. So, but let's understand that standpoint. That's how it works. So if you get sexually involved with someone, it's going to become a problem for you. Okay? What I recommend in 3 Girls in Love, from a dating standpoint, and I'll explain this in a later video as well, but what we're trying to help women get is that in the beginning, with the man of high value, he might get the stamp of approval, you guys are 3 girls, etc., etc. In the dating process, there will be no sexuality. There is no sexuality during the dating process. Why? Because you want to make sure that without the sex, without that involvement, you know for a fact that he's the one. And he should be able to know that you guys are the one because there is no sexual involvement. Sexuality clouds the mind from doing wise decisions, right? So how long will it take before you guys are ready? Well, let's say you guys move in together. Maybe it takes you 6 months or a year to go through the dating process of getting to know every individual in the relationship, because you don't want to move in, start the sexuality process with someone that you don't intend to be with for a lifetime. Lifelong commitment. I believe completely. I'm completely against sexuality before lifelong commitment. 100% of the time. If you don't get a lifetime commitment from a guy, no sexuality, none whatsoever, at all. It messes you up long term and gives you emotional baggage. It messes him up too, in many aspects, because he's not motivated anymore, and he doesn't progress on his journey the way he's supposed to. Okay, so that's a crucial aspect. Once you enter into the family, maybe even for a time space, when you're living together, there's no sexuality as well. That's going to fuel things very quickly, isn't it? And then, once you do start the sexuality, there's no kids. No kids, okay? For a long period of time. Preferably, in my opinion, at least 3 years. At least. Maybe 4, maybe 5 years. You know, I know that women are amazing at giving birth around 18 to 22, but let's wait. Let's hold off. Why? Because you want to make sure, again, that you don't create baggage, emotional baggage that comes with you in the next relationship if this one goes jinx, right? You don't want to create that mess, because it's going to be a mess for you and a mess for everyone else, because everyone wants to do things that's best for the kids, but it makes, again, it clouds the mind and clouds the rationality of the situation. So you want to only start the kids process when it's unanimously agreed, and everyone knows who is the first one to have a kid, and no one else is going to have a kid at the same time, okay? What we recommend on the 3 Girls in Love channel is 1 child per 8 years per woman. So really, every 8 years is going to be 3 kids. That's it. 1 child per woman every 8 years. That's what we recommend. So total will probably be about 3 kids, maybe even just 2 kids per woman. But that's enough in order for women to be unburdened. Okay? And that's what we're trying to establish here. And make sure that all women and children are provided for and taken care of. And it's easy to do so. That's what's going to create an amazing lifestyle. Okay? So anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Got so much more to share, but sometimes when I'm just talking to myself, I don't know what to talk to you guys about. So, and there's no there's no comments. So, I'll see you in the next one.